We're gonna get started here right now. So I assume that if you're here, you know why you're here. This panel is called Putting the Her in the Gathering. And what that really means is making space for women and marginalized gender in this game that we all love. So, and you too, out there, don't be sad, we got you. Basically, the idea of this panel is inclusivity and equality matters. So why is this necessary? So representation matters, we all know that. It creates a welcoming environment, it breaks down stereotypes, and it validates and empowers all players. We don't lose anything by welcoming other people that aren't us into the space. Safety equals retention. So more players equals more games, prevents dangerous situations, safe environments enable everyone to have fun. And really, magic is for everyone. So the gathering provides a sense of belonging, safety, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but nerd communities exist of marginalized people, okay? Most of us have some marginalized portion in our own identities. And the game is better when systemic barriers are broken. So, in this panel, what we're going to talk about, we're going to tell you about us and who we are, if you didn't know. We're going to tell you about the groups that we represent and things that you can do both online and public events like here, playgroups at home, and how to support your LGBTQIA+ community so that when you leave this panel, hopefully you have at least one tool that you can take to make your spaces better, either for you or the people around you. So, who are we? My name is Beth. I'm Queen of Cardboard. I'm the founder of the Community of Cardboard, which is a charitable organization, a member of Birds of Paradise, and I've raised over $1,000 for charity for the Trevor Project, NAMI, Moffitt Cancer Research Center, Trans Lifeline, and more. This is what I do. So I'm all about charity and making safe spaces. And you can find me pretty much everywhere at Queen of Cardboard.
Hi, I'm Sammy. I'm LadyxStensia. I am someone who works full-time at my local card shop, and I'm actively involved in our community every day. I have been for the last 12 years since I've been playing Magic. I'm the founder of the Women of Magic the Gathering Facebook page, for those of you who are a part of it. And I have been, been in Magic for 12 years.
Nice.
Hi everybody, I'm MishaMigo. More publicly, people know me as a big cosplayer in MTG. I was Slimefoot in Minneapolis, I won Best in Show. I was the Rakdos detective in Vegas last year. I won that grand championship. I have a Sword of Fire Knights in my house. So I do that, I'm a level 1 judge. But what people might not know is I'm also one of the directors for the VML. The VML started out as a small, I'm one of the directors for the VML.
We'll cover that later.
We'll cover that in a minute. And I'm also a member of Birds of Paradise. I started playing Magic back in 2020. It was a pandemic hobby, and it took over my life. Here I am.
Hello, Defiant Cathars. I'm Eliana, or L, Defiant Cathar on the internet. I am one of the leaders of the aforementioned Birds of Paradise group. I'm the head of vision and values for our organization. I'm also one of the co-founders for Creators for Change, which is a charity collective that has raised a significant amount of money for multiple different charitable organizations that we've partnered with, including ACLU, Trans Lifeline, TENT, LULAC, etc. I also cosplay, though I don't have a Sword of Fire and Ice. I'm a little jealous. I play Legacy, Commander, and CEDH, and I've been playing Magic for about 20 years, and I love Magic and being involved in this space.
My name is Queen Honey. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you guys for coming. I work full-time at my local game store, so I'm all in on Magic. And I work on front of house events that we have there dedicated to safe spaces. That's my passion, obviously, why we're here. And I stream on Rip and Chip My Moonshot, Kraken Packs, Bustin' Boosties. It's a great time. I'm an avid limited player. That's my favorite format, so hype that up. But a lot of fun stuff we're going to talk about for safe spaces.
Okay, before we go to our resources, there is someone at this panel who's not here, and that's Bobby Christine. Bobby Christine is the founder of Birds of Paradise. She's an avid person who gets people together in the community. She's the definition of community builder. And right now, she is, we'll worry about that later. She is battling cancer. And she could not make this panel. And we miss her so, so much. If you are in this room because of Bobby Christine, please stay at the end of this panel because we have something that we need to do. Okay? That's so. What resources do we have?
All right, now it's your turn. Sorry. So the VML, it started out as a small standard tournament through Magic the Gathering Arena that we got. There was a grant application that Wizards was sponsoring, and they accepted us. So we are now actually at the end of our season 13. We've been going for quite a few years now, and it's grown. The tournament is now 128 people. It started off with, I think, 8, so it's grown considerably. And we also have a really large online Discord. Over 1,000 people. We have cultivated a lot of really strong players. We did the championship, the VML champs last year, and we actually sent 2 people to the Pro Tour, so that was an amazing thing that we got to do. And many of the Sanctum of All members are also VML members, so it's really cool to see a lot of our community growing together and lifting each other up and just getting better at competitive Magic. We also do, not competitive stuff as well, but it started as a very competitive growing community, and it's been lovely. We are upstairs working with Birds of Paradise to do the Safe Play Space. So that's who and what the VML is. If you'd like more information, vmlntg.com is our website. And I'll pass.
Women of Magic the Gathering, for any of those who are familiar with it, is a Facebook page that was started from an interaction that myself and other women had in our own play space. So we wanted to give others that safe play space, but also while including the men of our community as well. Our whole thing is wanting to bridge that gap and normalize the presence of women and marginalized genders in the game space while also including the majority, so that we can also help them, help everybody understand how important it is that we are, we want to feel safe just as much as others.
SheEDH started as an event that we would host at local game stores, just to have like ladies' night Magic at local game stores, and then there was a small group of us that got together online to do that online. So on TikTok, hosting just gameplay of a whole female pod, and that was just really life-changing for so many of us, and so we wanted to help the community see that further. And so SheEDH was really founded. I'm one of 3 founders, and we really got together because we just wanted everyone to be able to experience a full fem pod. So our goal is to be able to dedicate ourselves and our community to cultivating safe, inclusive, and positive gaming spaces for all gamers. We just really like to hype up the fem because truly we believe that quality gaming, gaming equality is quality gaming. And so truly to make that happen, we just want to be able to highlight the spaces and show that there are safe men and masks in the space, but just really highlighting that there is a way to have a positive all-fem pod, and it's life-changing and wonderful. It's a good time.
Community cardboard. I talked about this a little bit because I broke the rules. So what we are is we're a charity group. We not only host about 4 charity events a year, including the Sheldon Manor Commander stream. We host the Magic Mental Health stream in the spring, but we take in donations from larger organizations. We recently received about a pallet of Magic content from product from DreamHack. We have partnerships with Cool Stuff Inc., TCG Player, it doesn't matter. And what we do with all that product is we take the barriers down for other charity events. So, for example, Creators for Change, when they need gifts to give away to encourage people to donate, they come to us and we give them that product. We don't ask questions about your charity, obviously, within reason. And it makes it easier for you to have the tools and things that you need to have a successful charity event.
And Birds of Paradise. Birds of Paradise is a revolving community. It's a collective of players, creators, judges, and lovers of the game, dedicated to highlighting voices of women and other marginalized backgrounds in our community and creating that safe space like my co-panelists here have been talking about. We provide safe space in person at events at several large Magic Cons and other events so far, usually partnered with VML. As Misha said, you can find our booth next to the Creator Central upstairs. We just want to provide a safe space both online and in person for people to go and be able to play games regardless of your gender identity, regardless of your expression, regardless of who you are, what you are, who you love, etc. We just want everyone to be able to enjoy this game. Spread your wings and, tap for a man of any color.
So the point with this is that there's no one right way to have a welcoming space, and that groups can work together, and that there are, no matter whether you're online, you're in person, there's ways to be welcoming. So what we're going to talk about now is how you can change your spaces. So first up we have online with Misha.
Yeah, so as we kind of talked about, a lot of our groups are on different online platforms. So if you are on Facebook, TikTok, Discord, YouTube,
Twitch,
yes, thank you.
Twitter.
That's the one.
Yeah, Twitter, that one.
Unfortunately.
But any of those online spaces, there are resources. Our organizations span most of those, and if you ever need help, advice, we are there as a resource for you to reach out and talk to. We're happy to help and happy to help you make connections in your areas, because everybody deserves to feel welcome in their space, and we want to help put you in a place where you can do that. So on the downside of being online, there is sadly a lot of harassment and other bad things that come up. So a few tools that we came up with to help with some of the negative parts are, if you see some harassment, report and block it. That's what you can do to try to minimize it, curate your online spaces to make them, more inclusive and just less destructive. A lot of times, I know I personally sometimes will want to jump in and engage because I get mad. I get real mad when people are being mean to my friends. And so I just want to tell them to shove rocks. But sometimes it's better not to do that because then other people just stockpile on. So honestly, reporting and blocking and not engaging with that kind of negativity is better for your mental health, it's better for the community, and honestly, it ends up being less negative. If there is someone that is causing a lot of negativity and problems, also warn people. We want to make sure that we are making these spaces more welcoming and inclusive. If someone is a threat to that, tell people around you, reach out to us, and we can do a community service and try to do what we can to make sure those people don't do it in person and aren't welcome in our groups. So we want to curate our online communities to make sure that they are safe places, because that's what we care about. We care about the people in our communities, and yeah.
And we know that this isn't easy. Here's the thing. It's so frustrating when people come online and they say whatever they're thinking and they act like behind a computer they're Superman and they are mean to us, our friends. But when we engage, we fill that fire for them to keep going, they get that attention. And what we're not thinking about is I can handle it, right? Sammy can handle it. Misha can handle it. But what if Elle can't? We never know.
I'll handle it, but I might cry.
The funny part is I literally picked the toughest person on this panel to not handle it. We never know what's going on in our friends' lives or the things that they're going through. They shouldn't have to be faced with more harassment because of our actions. So when you encourage someone, when you engage with someone that is causing problems or being a negative space, you actually invite them into your house. If someone's throwing rocks outside, you don't say, come on in. You call the cops.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that especially in those online spaces, there is, you're feeding the algorithm by interacting with these people, and you're putting it on more people's pages to see that hate. We talked about this at another panel that Beth and I did at CuteCon in Wisconsin not long ago, but there's a difference between people who are coming from a position of like genuine ignorance, like they just don't know, and those are people that you can educate, but there are a lot of people, especially in online spaces, that are not coming from a place of good faith and engaging with them and trying to, either interact with them in a way that is, putting them down, or interact with them in a way that is coming from a place of trying to educate them. It's just a waste of your time. You're feeding them rather than, helping yourself or helping any of the friends you're trying to help.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing is at public events. Hey, we're here.
Whoa, we're here. Whoa, this is public.
Public indeed. So for someone who works full-time at our LGS, this is something that is important to me, and I'm sure a lot of you who are also involved in your immediate communities, and not quite online, like myself. So when it comes to safe spaces, a safe space can be a literal space like this or back home at your LGS. Like the spaces that BOP and VML that have provided for you guys here as well. Or even having SheEDH nights at your local card shop, like we do at ours at first Tuesday of every month. So for friends, play with those that make you feel most comfortable, and those that you feel more safe around. And when you're in a group you're familiar with, people are less likely to act out. For judges and staff, especially if there is no judge present and you're not playing in something like an RCQ or something like that, and it's just a commander night at your local card shop. If you have an interaction that is distasteful or disrespectful or anything like that, if you don't let someone of the card shop staff know, there's not much that we can do to help you change that, or help improve that situation, help improve that safe space. There have been many times where I have been in that situation in other card shops that are away from the community that we've built back home. And if I didn't say something, they wouldn't have been able to improve, or if somebody else didn't say something. So especially with, even when it comes to misgendering peers as well, that is something that has happened, not in our community recently, but in other communities that I've been in, that I've had to be like, hey, but apologies.
Basically the point is you have to speak up. And this is the hardest part of this. This is probably one of the hardest slides. But I really want to reach out to those of you who are not women or MBs or marginalized genders out here in our crowd, because this is where we're calling to you to help. This is the call to action. If you see that something is happening to someone, call for help. Be the person to get them to safety. Be loud. If you have the spoons to do that, that is the most helpful you can be, because this stuff doesn't stop until we make it stop, especially in person. This is different than online, because online it's almost nebulous in this weird thing that you can't really call for a judge. But in person, you can make them not welcome in that space. And people who are in charge, the game stores, the staff, the judges, they are there to physically remove them. And here's the thing, I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, my game store doesn't care. Well, Wizards does. Make a report to Wizards of the Coast, especially if they're partnered, and they'll check it out. And if it doesn't happen, do it again, because the squeaky wheel, it's the one that gets paid attention to. Okay?
Also, write reviews. If it's a game store that's not being cool, give them a negative review. Let other people know. And if they see enough of those, they're probably it's gonna hurt their business, and maybe they'll fix it. So use your voice.
And like Beth said about the call to action aspect of that, that's what is called, using your privilege positively. So these spaces are typically, these nerd community spaces are typically dominated by cishet white males, and that demographic has diversified immensely as spaces have become more welcoming. But it's still true that there are a larger number of those, that demographic is available, more readily catered to. So if you want to be a positive change in those spaces, you use that privilege of being that more visible, like less affected by this type of activity person. Use your privilege to protect those people that, or to stand up for those people that might be marginalized by that type of behavior.
Playgroups.
Playgroups. Okay, I feel like this is just a little bit more of a specific way of talking about what we just said. So the first thing is that we need to set boundaries. I think playgroups is a really special case of being able to do this because if it's your playgroup, it's your friends, the people you play the most with. So you're in a space where you're able to be more honest. It's easier to be more vulnerable. And so I really want to encourage you to be brave and have those hard conversations. Because regardless if you're playing at home with your friends or if you're going to the local game store, I'm going to say this actually, if you're taking your playgroup to the local game store, even if you're just having that one conversation with someone in your playgroup, you never know who's walking by, you never know what the people around you are able to hear. So you truly are having a bigger impact than just that one conversation. And so maybe this is an encouragement to you that if you are playing at home with your playgroup, go to the local game store once a month. You can still have your jammies and get all the snacks at home the rest of the time, but maybe going to the local game store is an intentional way that you can start encouraging people by, hey, I am going to be having this safe conversation so that the people around me can hear it also. Because it is safer for us to have those boundary-setting conversations with our friends, but we want to make sure our community is seeing that people do care and there is action being held. So I want to encourage you, maybe that's something you could do, one night a week at your actual local game store rather than at home. And that is something that's important to know, that it's okay to say no also. If you are at the local game store, or even if your friend is real comfortable, maybe something happens. Something for me that was, I thought it seemed like a small deal, but it impacted me a lot more than I thought it would, was a friend of mine was really excited. They got this play mat. It had beautiful art on it, but it just made me a little bit uncomfortable. And so what's okay for some people isn't okay for others. And while he was really excited about that play mat, and I was excited that he was excited, I was uncomfortable, and so I spoke up and told him that. And you know, even if you say you have one play mat, no you don't. So change it.
I know we all have like 50 in our closet. Come on, guys. I'm sure you got 4 this weekend alone.
Yeah.
I left 4 at Hobbs's house.
I brought 3 with me.
I brought 1 with me and I'm leaving with 3 more this weekend, so there's no excuse, people.
I only brought my one special Fibble one, and I'm one and done.
And it's lost. So the bottom line here is, especially when playing with people you know, people who don't take no for an answer, they're not your friends, and they don't have your interest in mind, and you don't have to play with them. There are thousands of people who play Magic the Gathering, and you can find them online, you can find them in person, you can find them on groups. Spell Table is an amazing tool. You do not have to have a good picture. You can literally use your cell phone in a box.
I've seen it.
I've streamed it. You don't have to be alone. And you don't have to accept abuse so that you're not. The last thing we're going to talk about in this part is Rule 0. And I know if you're not a Commander player, or maybe if you are, you just collectively cringed. But Rule 0 is not just about breaking the rules of Commander, it's literally a conversation about consent. What are you okay with playing against? What do you want your game to look like? Sheldon Menery said in his interview last year that a game of Commander should be where every deck has a chance to play and eventually someone wins. You should enjoy the time at the table. Whether you're playing at the Pro Tour, whether you're playing with your friends, whether you're playing with strangers.
I think that's super important to have that last part too, because that's not just for Commander. Like, you don't have to sit and accept a toxic play experience in 1v1 competitive Magic either. Like, sometimes you have opponents who are going to be, you know, not nice people, and you have to play them because that's who you're paired against, but you don't have to accept abuse. That's when you call a judge, because there are definitely conduct violations that can be awarded and game losses that can be awarded for people being legitimately abusive or just nasty and mean to you. So do not accept that kind of abuse in anything. Rule 0 exists for every form of Magic.
I think there are a lot of situations also that a lot of stereotypes about women is that we're new to Magic, that we don't know how to play our decks, and so there are situations where, whether it's good intention or not, many people try to tell us how to play our decks and the types of interactions that are happening, and so there's a lot of discussion about this is what you need to do. And so I think during Rule 0 is, even though it shouldn't be this way, until we get to the spot, which we are there, because there are so many femme here this weekend and I'm so excited, but until we get to the spot to where the ratio is better at local game stores and in your play space, until the ratio is better, we as femme do need to be responsible by helping set the boundary to the mask in the room. When we sit down, part of our Rule 0 conversation should be, hey, I am an experienced player, I built this deck, I love my cards, I know how to play, if I have a question, I will ask. And so we can't just assume that the men in the room or just the opponent, that they're going to know that. And so hopefully one day we'll get there. We're not yet there, so we do also need to take responsibility and just set that expectation so that we don't get frustrated later on.
I have to say, one of my favorite experiences to that end. Absolutely, give that up. Absolutely. I showed up to a Legacy tournament and my first opponent was like, do you have a Legacy deck? And I was like, whoo boy, you're about to learn.
I had a very nice experience earlier, actually, now that I think about that, right before I got into a Commander game with some guys. One of them was playing Mahad's Feathers Night, and I was like, oh, I have one of those too. And he's like, well, would you like to see mine? And I was like, sure. And he's like, can I see yours? I've been looking for other ideas. And I was like, okay. I'm okay with this. So, and then he was going through it and he's like, I never thought about this, and likewise with his, and I've had genuinely nice experience with the Men in Mask here at this con compared to others, whereas I have before finished games and been told, hey, you're pretty good for a girl. Super backhanded compliment. Yes.
And then we never saw them again.
This is actually very true. I did actually never see them again, so.
They're where they belong.
We don't need to talk about where they are right now.
What stays in Vegas?
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right, so here's the thing that is really important about this. You probably came and you were like, we're going to talk about girls, and we are. But the LGBTQIA plus community has some of the same struggles that women go through in Magic the Gathering. Marginalized is marginalized is marginalized. But we're going to have Elle talk about it. And not because Elle is the only one who experiences that in this room or on this panel, but because she's really smart and I love her.
Oh, thank you. I am kind of the token trans woman here, but it's okay. I volunteered for this. Hi, everybody. So a lot of the things I'm going to talk about here are more apt for people who are not affected by these issues to keep in mind to assist people who are affected by these issues. I know people who are affected by these issues have heard all of this a million times. So this information is for education for people who want to assist, or maybe people who think they know how to assist already and want to learn better. So the first thing we're going to talk about is setting the example. This kind of goes back to some of the stuff that we've talked about and some of the other things, some of the other aspects, like especially with the stuff Misha was talking about initially. So you are the leader of your experience. Your experience, you can control that narrative. You can be the one who is directing the flow of things. You can diffuse incidents by controlling the narrative, and basically, like, whenever you see someone who maybe not even intentionally is making someone else feel uncomfortable, who is saying something that is potentially like, hyphen-phobic, transphobic, homophobic, what have you, you can step in and interact in a way that's positive, that makes that person feel protected or seen, and try and course correct the conversation, course correct that behavior. And if that person adjusts, then great, you just did a great service. And if not, you know you have a problem, and that's whenever you're gonna judge. But that is honestly one of the most important things, is being willing to speak up, like we've already said. And for sometimes it is easier for people who aren't directly affected by those things to be the ones speaking up. Which goes into don't alienate, because sometimes you can be on the flip side and you can be the one who is accidentally causing that person to feel alienated. Maybe like we said over here, and over here we have people who have been misgendered accidentally. A lot of times it's best to just correct yourself and move on. Do not stop and bring attention to it, because that is just going to continue to alienate the person 99% of the time. You don't want to make these people feel unwelcome. You don't want to make us feel unwelcome in your space. We're trying to create a safe space for everybody, and by bringing attention to every little microaggression and making a big deal out of how sorry you are, sometimes that can just make the situation that much worse and that much more uncomfortable for everyone involved. Not just the person affected, but also the person who committed the microaggression in the first place. A lot of times microaggressions, if you're not familiar with the term, this applies with a lot of different forms of marginalized communities, marginalized, racial backgrounds, ethnicities, genders, sexualities, etc. But a microaggression is something that the person committing the aggression might not even know that they're doing, but it can seem like a huge thing to the person being affected by it. And that's whenever you have to stop and listen. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know how it affects the person. If someone stops you and tells you, hey, this happened and this is how it made me feel, you don't get to say, well, that doesn't make sense to me. You need to stop, listen, and correct the behavior going forward, or do your best to make them feel welcome. And that's what listening is right there. You don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna say things that are not correct. But the important thing is that you're able to adapt your behavior, you're able to accommodate people, you're able to make those people feel welcome, and just acknowledge that you're not perfect. But the willingness to learn and adjust is what makes you better than someone who's going to be out there intentionally committing these aggressions. And normalizing inclusivity is probably the most important thing on this list. Sometimes very, very simple behaviors that you just make part of your everyday activities at the game store or at the event, or even signing into a spell table pod online, can make things that much more comfortable and normal for the people affected by these marginalizations. Something Beth told me that I think is awesome, and I agree with and have recommended people do before, is as soon as you meet a new group of people, you're saying, hi, I'm Beth, and she, her pronouns. Beth is a cis woman, but she's still introducing with her pronouns because it normalizes it for people who might, use non-binary pronouns, or people who are, transgender, and maybe someone, is trying to clock them. That's a term that some of you cis people may or may not know. I don't know. But in that instance, that is opening a door for other people to give that information without it being an awkward thing for them. That's not putting them on the spotlight. You're opening a door and normalizing that conversation for everybody. Another example would be whenever you're introducing yourself to new people, asking them their pronouns, whether they are obviously a big burly cis guy with a beard, or someone you suspect might be, non-binary, trans, what have you. Still asking everyone their pronouns. That way it's not you're not just singling out one person and being oh, you're the person I think is clearly trans, what are your pronouns? That's what it looks like when you do that.
Yeah,
so
it makes it look almost targeted.
It makes it look very targeted.
You don't want to make someone feel targeted, you want to just make it normalized.
Exactly. Normalizing inclusivity by those minor little behaviors and those little changes. It might seem inconvenient at first for you, but honestly think about it. It's a 2-word sentence sometimes that just opens up a variety of doors and makes so many people feel so much more welcome.
So I want to say, if you're in this room, you're probably thinking, I'm someone who wants to be welcoming. I'm someone who wants to be welcome. And when I first joined the online community, that's exactly how I felt. And let me tell you, when I got educated, because I thought that I was welcoming and that I knew that I was doing good things, and I too committed a lot of microaggressions and put a lot of people on the spot because I didn't know. If you've never interacted with people that are not like you, then you don't know what it's like going through for them. And here's where it's really important. If somebody is going through aggression and microaggression every day, that is called community exhaustion. They don't have to, it's not their job to educate you. There is so much information out there to educate yourself to do the best that you can do. Stay humble, apologize when you are wrong, and listen to each person and what they're saying, because Elle has a great blueprint for how you should behave, but Elle is not the only person who feels that way. So other people might have different ways that they want to be treated, and it does not cost you anything to take an extra minute to be kind and listen to somebody who is telling you that they are experiencing hardship.
And I think it's important, like you said, that was those examples I gave are a blueprint. That's not like firm directions. Different people have different lived experiences and experience things like in different ways. So it's super important to realize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. All you can do is your best to make everyone feel welcome and safe, and to own whenever you've messed up and listen to the people who are affected.
And when somebody apologizes, don't tell them that they're okay. Let them apologize and be wrong, because even when somebody like myself gets on the internet and I say I made a mistake, I did something wrong, a lot of what happens is like, oh Beth, you're perfect, you're wonderful. No, I'm not. I'm a person and I make mistakes. Accept, it's okay that it doesn't make me a bad person. Accept that I can make a mistake. Accept that you can make a mistake and you can still move forward and do the right thing.
Yeah, the big thing is, we all make mistakes. We're humans, but we all want to do better. Like, that's the big takeaway, is that we all want to be better people, and we want to make other people feel welcome and comfortable.
That's absolutely the kicker, is the difference between being willing to accept that you've made a mistake and just continuing on because it doesn't affect you.
I think it's really hard, especially because of the permanence that the online community has these days, that we can be so scared of saying the wrong thing or doing some kind of microaggression that we're not aware of, or anything, that we just don't interact. That we just don't partake, we don't interact, and we just try not to do anything. But the silence is also deadly in these situations, and the fear of being wrong is something that I want to just eradicate from the community, and that you can be yourself, and that you can, we are all people, right? You can apologize, people will forgive you, you will move forward. The important thing is that we are able to communicate, that we are moving and we are growing together, and that that's what we want. At the end of the day, we want to grow together, and so recognizing that we're human and that we can do that is really important, especially online.
Yeah, I'd like to also reiterate, as far as the staff at LGSs and everything else like that, if we don't know that something like that is happening, we can't do anything about it. And so all I would ask is that please, if something does whether it happens to you or others, please say something to staff, because we cannot do anything about that to make that play space more safe unless somebody says something.
All right. So here's the bottom line. We're all ready to go out there and be advocates, right? But your mental health and safety comes first. Don't put yourself in a situation where you can't go on. Even if you have to take a break from advocacy, guess what? 2 people that you affected stand in your place, okay? It is okay to take a break. It is okay to not always be out there screaming to the masses about how change needs to happen. Ripples make waves. You make so much more change by affecting people close to you than screaming to people across the fence. They're not going to listen. They already believe what they believe. But the person who's right next to you that maybe believes a little bit differently, and you say, hey, look at this. This is how this works. This is how I feel. They change. Then they talk to the person who's a little further away. that person changes. That is how we affect community and worldwide change. The more discourse we have and the more division we have, the less likely anything happens.
Empathy, not hate.
So when we planned this panel, we expected not enough time, so we were real speedy.
We zoomed through a lot of this topic.
So guess what? Hey! All right, if you have a question, we actually have a microphone. So, wait, what? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have a microphone.
And be good, or we are going to kick you out.
That's gonna look a little rowdy.
Hello.
Well, no, I mean, like, there's a difference between getting a little rowdy, a little feisty, and, like, you know.
I'll play Chapel Run again.
That's gonna encourage them.
Okay. If you have a question, raise your hands, wait for the goblin.
That's the goblin.
Hey, what's up? Thanks so much for sharing everything. It was really great to hear. So I just started a platform in Europe, the same thing you guys are doing. And I have two questions, one online related, one offline related. The online one is, how do you make sure the online community is safe? Like, how do you?
Can I start with this one?
Absolutely.
So the VML, we actually have, our community is worldwide. We have a lot of players in, a lot of them in the US, but Europe, like every country. A big thing is that we have a good moderation team. We have people in there, we have a lot of like roles that if something happens, and you know, things do happen, where someone may be uncomfortable or something comes up, they can ping a moderator, they can DM us, we can reach out, and then that way, if, you know, depending on the situation, we can have a talk, we can ban and implement those types of safeties to make sure that it doesn't happen again and that everybody's okay. So that's a big one, at least in Discord.
So I'll mention for stream, as a streamer I have a lot of different guests on all the time. I make the rules very clear from the very beginning. I am the queen of my castle, I own that space, and if they can't follow that, my moderators like to joke that I have a phrase, which is, what we're not gonna do is, and then I just yell at them for 15 minutes on stream and they never do it again. I don't know why. But I think it goes back to setting boundaries, having a good team that supports those boundaries and rules, and sticking by it. I think of it more like a business. If your customer is throwing eggs in the middle of your store, they're not your customer, they're just a jerk.
Yeah, I guess for us it's a little hard because we just started, so we don't have like a big old team.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, like Beth said, making things clear up front and taking swift action, because that goes back to the whole normalizing inclusivity thing, right? Because if you make it clear up front what your values are and what the expectations are, then a lot of times that simple statement of very clear fact will weed out a lot of the types of people you don't want in that community.
All right. And what was the second question?
I wrote it down because it's a lot of words. Are there any other ways for you to get cis and white male other than in this room and that are already allies to take responsibility and call out bad behavior, because like if they start doing it, that's what you want.
Brick by brick. So it doesn't happen overnight. But I will say, I've been on the internet since dial-up.
She loves to say that.
I know, it's because I'm 38. And y'all better not repeat that.
It stays in this room only.
You're not that far ahead of me, Beth.
But the point is that Magic the Gathering is the first space that I've ever found where the community does stand up for women, where we do see good things happen. And that doesn't mean bad things don't happen, it happens, but it happens because we want it to, and because we keep doing the same thing. You keep setting the rules, you keep telling people when they're wrong, you exclude people who aren't on that path. You let people make mistakes, you allow them to grow, you correct, you correct, you correct. It is a job.
I think the ripples analogy is very apt here too, because as you make, like maybe, you know, you're trying to get more of those types of individuals involved in your space, and you've got an in, right? You've got an in, you've got somebody who's more susceptible to wanting to learn and wanting to be more welcoming. You get them on board, and then they slowly get their friends on board, and et cetera, it goes from there.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course, thank you.
Question number 2. Right here in front.
My question is, since you have a unified front, together, and I know that there's no one-size-fits-all aspect of it, but is there like a possibility of like getting together and maybe creating an aggregate and giving definitions of, certain things that are clear to people, like a resource that somebody could go to?
No, I hate these girls.
Because
We're gonna fight after this.
Because
We buy
I feel
tickets.
like if you could make it magic specific, maybe it would narrow down the difficulties that people who don't understand it or who are growing into the game.
Yes.
Is that something that could be
Ooh.
accomplished, or do you think that that's just?
What do you think? No, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna put you on the spot.
I was gonna say, I feel like the best way to do that is have it come down from the top, which would be.
Which the great thing is that
He's like, don't do this.
there are people at Wizards and Hasbro who believe in this. We wouldn't be in this room if this didn't matter. So again, I wish I had an answer where I could like click my heels, wave a wand, it's fixed, it's better. It's brick by brick. And I'm gonna say that a lot. But
I think that another thing to, if I can jump in for a second, I think another thing to bring up is that you mentioned magic specific thing. A lot of these resources that we've talked about are available online already, but not in like a magic specific, like here's where people have to do a little bit of work to find them, and that's true.
And sometimes you find yourself at a page where there's differentiating opinions, and like you were talking about the fear of making a mistake, and
It's scary because sometimes you make a mistake and you're like, oh no, am I going to get canceled tomorrow?
yeah.
And it's scary to admit that you're wrong and accept consequences, and because those consequences can be really rough sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a scary place for content creators and to just admit it. But honestly, when you do admit it, you can grow and you can be better, and it just takes time. So.
One small resource I recommend is on your phone, either in the Notes tab or if you just want to bookmark them on Safari or whatever. All these different resources, just have them bookmarked or have the links like saved in a notes so that when you have these conversations, you can quickly pull that up and share it with people.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
I actually think that maybe a magic specific primer, if you will, is not a bad idea, and I might get to work on something like that in the near future.
I've actually had some judges reach out to me and be like, hey, we as judges want to work together to make this a kind of more official thing.
We're on it, okay?
All right.
That's the short answer.
We
We're on
Yes.
got behind the scenes things
All
that
right.
we're going to try to do.
Next question.
Yeah, let's get some people over here.
So this isn't really a question so much as a scenario that happened yesterday. I was a little confused about. So for context, we were in an EDH pod together. I was playing a Go deck, and there was this girl and then her boyfriend and another guy. She was newish, and she was playing like a Selesnya Auras deck. So obviously I'm gonna go to her creatures because I don't want that coming at me. But when her creatures were goaded, she was stressing out about who to attack, what to do, and her boyfriend was like, do this, do this, do this, do that, and then she was stressing the entire time. And it got to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I just won't go to her creatures so she can feel comfortable attacking who she wants. But then once she wasn't goaded, she just wasn't attacking at all because she was just stressed about, okay, did this happen or that, I just didn't know exactly how to make her feel comfortable attacking after that whole scenario.
So the problem there is I'm not her. I will say that Commander is the worst format for new players. And that's how
Yes,
everyone
agreed.
gets started, and it's really, really intimidating. In those types of situations, it's hard, right? Like, you're already there, somebody's already uncomfortable, they're already upset, and there's really not much that it feels like that can be done. All I can say is that the best thing that I can do is have a post-game conversation, in that I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I'm so sorry. You were doing great. This is how I saw that your deck was working. This is why I chose to goad your creatures. Because a lot of times, and you might not know this, but playing as a woman, have you ever noticed that we get targeted a lot or completely ignored?
Definitely on that last one, I actually had that brought up to me the other day in our own community.
So maybe she was uncomfortable because she was nervous. Maybe she was uncomfortable because she feels this happens to her all the time and she doesn't understand why. That's not necessarily your fault. You weren't doing that because she was a girl. You were doing that because she was a threat. But how do you fix that? And I would say a post-game conversation.
Yeah, I know that a lot of times in games, I sometimes, if like it starts to feel uncomfortable, like not necessarily me, but like I can see something else, I try to inject a little bit of humor and be like, or, you know, even just some like silly politicking, be like, you know, I'll take a turn, we'll all get goaded, or like just make it a little silly. And a lot of times I try to take it too seriously, be like, it's a game, we're here to have fun. Yes, I'd like to win, but also it's okay just to have a good time and spread the love, spread the goad.
Another thing you can do in that type of situation, because there's another added layer of like complexity to that situation because there are two partners in the pod, right? I think another thing you can do though is like when you see people like getting heated or getting like starting to get like, oh no, do this, blah, 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 and talking over each other and such, and just be like, hey everybody, let's just calm down for a minute.
Yeah.
Everybody take a second, take a breath. Let's look at the board. What's going on here?
Yeah, I always like to kind of step out of it and like not be an opponent at that point and be a coach and be like, hey, you got this, you're doing great, like you played this game so well, what do you think is the biggest threat on the board? Put it back on them to really get them thinking like, and if they don't know, hey, it's okay. You don't have to swing. You can give it a minute. Are you having fun? Are you having a good time? Or like, take it out of the game. Let's talk about how I got into Magic. How did you get into Magic? Next question. Put them up high. Hobbs is short.
Hi, great panel. I was wondering, what are some of the strongest pieces of Magic community building that you have seen, like both online and LGSs?
Ooh, honey, you have been talking.
Well, I think just hosting, like when you think of something that I talked about a lot with them is that in the outer world, outside of Magic, there has been so much growth for the women and community thing. It used to be the mean girls mentality that like there's only space for one of us, and so we have to fight and scratch each other down so that we can get there. But nowadays, we truly all are, that there's space for all of us at the table, and we're lifting each other up, and I see that so much in the world, but I'm waiting for that in Magic still. And so I try to think of, well, what else can I do that's outside of the world that I can bring to Magic? So something that I like to do is like Galentine's Days, or just like having a little tea party or sleepovers. And so for She EDH, we would host a sleepover where we literally would like play Chubby Bunny and all these things on stream while we were playing Magic games because we just wanted to have that stuff. So try to think of things that you get excited about in your world and bringing that into Magic, because if you're excited about it out there, other people are too. And so if you bring that to your local game store, maybe saying, hey, like, can we have like a Galentine's Day event? Your game store would be excited about that. So whatever you're excited about in the outside world, bring that into Magic.
I think the other thing is to remember that adding to the community does not take away from the community. When you add to a pie chart, the pie just gets bigger. We all like pie, right? Right?
Yes.
So when you add people and you include people, that makes for a better community. So there's a lot of things in media and in the public today that really tells you like, I have to succeed, I have to do better. And when our friends succeed, it sometimes makes us feel a little bad. You can still have feelings that you didn't make it and be proud of your friends. And that's really complicated, and feelings are tough. Like, let me tell you, There's some things that these women have done at this table that I'm just like, holy cow, you guys are awesome, you're so cool, I'm so glad I'm your friend, and then I'm like, but me too.
I was gonna say, just risen your friends up. Like, if you make it a fun, welcoming space, encourage each other, just giving a lot of encouragement to the people around you, because that makes more people want to come in. It's like, I like to feel good, they like to feel good, more people like to feel that way and want to join you.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. Right behind you, yeah.
Hello, I've definitely had the experience of being told how to pilot my own deck that I've built.
Yep.
And I've been playing for...
Where is he?
Oh. And I've been playing for almost 4 years, so I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. And sometimes when I have a question on how a mechanic works, or, you know, how it would play out in the stack, I almost feel, you know, after explaining, like, please don't tell me how to pilot my deck, you know, I know how to do this, I almost feel stupid for asking a question after that. Is there anything I can do to kind of prevent this?
Heck yeah. So here's where I like to actually involve judges, because judges are very, like, they don't care about the drama, they don't care about, they want you to learn and do better. So whether you're taking the call away from the table, which honestly is really intimidating to the rest of the table, or you want to ask in front of the table, don't be afraid to call a judge. That is an outside person who's on your side. So if you're having problems and you play with the same people or even new people and they're telling you how to pilot your deck and you're like, all right, I'm done with this, I'm not going to ask questions ever again, don't do that. And then ask a judge. If it comes down to it, well, that's where you're comfortable, you can always be comfortable asking a judge. If it comes down to you're not comfortable asking questions in a pod because they're making you feel small, that's the wrong pod.
Absolutely, and I was actually going to bring up exactly the ask to talk to a judge away from the table. A lot of, I feel like people who primarily play casual EDH might not be super comfortable with calling a judge because it's not something you frequently have to do. But if you're at a game store, they should have someone who is at least like a rules advisor there, or you know, at the very least, just someone in the store who is an official staff person who knows the rules, even if they're not a certified judge. Just lift your hand up, call judge, and especially if you're at a magic event like this, one will come running. And then you can just say, hey.
Sometimes from another pod.
Sometimes from a completely other event. It's wild. You should try it sometimes. Don't do that. It works so hard.
Everybody raise your
Thank
hands.
you, judges. Thank you, judges.
Really loud.
But you can ask to talk to them away from the table, and if you're not comfortable asking in front of the pod.
This isn't a pretty answer, but it's very tangible. Something else you can do is just say, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then look it up on your phone.
I'll admit, as a level 1 judge, there's plenty of times where I'm like, ooh, I don't quite know how this works. I need to find a judgier judge, and that does make me feel a little silly, but it's like, Magic is a complex game. It's hard.
Truly.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and so it's okay. Like, it's okay to make it clear, hey, this is my deck, please don't tell me how to pilot it. Put that boundary out there from the get-go. But if it's a complex interaction, it's okay to consult Google. It's okay to ask someone with a lot more knowledge. And I don't think you should think less of yourself, because did you see how big the rule book is? What other game has that many rules? So don't feel bad.
I also like to say, I can do this myself. I want to learn this on my own. I don't need your help. All right, we have time for one more question. Anybody else?
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, in the back.
In the back.
In the back. Go, Hops, go.
Last week, what?
Look at those little legs pump.
Everybody give Hobbs a round of applause.
So I'm a very competitive player, and there are many times where I join a competitive event and I'm the only woman or the only femme person. How do you handle the pressure of feeling like you represent your entire community? And everyone is looking to see
Well, let me-
women, and it's just actually me.
Let me tell you a story. So, for those of you who don't know me, I was very blessed to be mentored by Sheldon Meneray in the last year of his life. And last year, he had his final interview with BDM. And I brought all my friends, and I knew I was going to be sad. And I sat there next to Donnie and Jen, who were back there. They fed me red vines, and I sniffled a little bit, and I sniffled a little bit. And then BDM asked this question: who do you think is doing the work in the community that we need? And out of this man's mouth, he said, Queen of Cardboard and Voxy. And I'm not saying that to bust my chops, because I'll tell you I immediately started cussing him. But that put me in a position where I put so much pressure on myself that I could not function. At the end of the day, you're just Emma, and that's okay. So what I like to think, and I've had a lot of conversations with you, so this is a little more personal, that you have to find those people that pour back into you. So I have a group of people that I am very, very close to. I'm not always Queen of Cardboard. Sometimes I'm just Beth. In fact, most of the time, I'm just Beth. And Beth gets sad, and Beth feels pressure, and Beth gets stressed and anxious. And those are the people that pour back into me when I'm low. But what you need to remember is that you can't be a sponge, you have to be a fountain. Your friends are gonna get low too. You have to pour back into each other.
I think, hi, I'm also very competitive. So my short answer is just one. Just one.
She does. Oh, by the way, Emma, Mythic #1 ranked in the world on Arena. Say hi. Alright, so some last thoughts. This is our time. They're already waiting to replace us. That's okay. I have a hashtag up. It's called #HerInTheGathering. Don't go anywhere yet. I'm still talking. They'll have to carry me out. Post about it. Use this hashtag. Talk about your experiences. Talk about what you're going through. You want to know how to affect change? Make people hear you. Unify. Okay? There is no problem that you cannot overcome. There's no amount of drama. There's no BS. We are in this together, and if we don't fight together, we will not overcome this. Okay? Now, we're going to go on a field trip. If you would like, all of us are going upstairs to the Bob VML booth. Please turn off the stream, because I'm about to talk about a secret mission. Bye, stream. We love you. Bye. At the beginning of this, we talked about Bobby Christine. She was supposed to be here on this panel. We love her very, very much. All weekend, we've been recording videos for her, telling her how much we love her. If you would like to do that, please come up with us now. If you would like to see what a safe space looks like, please come up with us now. We are all going to go up there. We will be up there until any of your questions, all of the things that you want to talk about are answered, and we're going to hold a safe space right now. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.